welcome to the Horror History Film Series Episode 3. I hope you enjoy. In July 1952, a UFO was supposedly spotted over Washington, D.C. This sighting demonstrates the newfound interest in space and technology that was emerging in the 1950s, as well as horror and sci-fi crossing over for the first time. After the horrors of World War II, the costumed monsters of fantasy horror were no longer enough to scare an audience. People wanted relatable horror set in towns and suburbs. They were usually set in the present day and often played on people's fear of technology and scientific development taking over the world. Horror was seen as a second-class genre, and A-list stars tended to play in epics and musicals instead. Although the classics did continue to be made, this was partially helped by the birth of Hammer Horror. Hammer Film Productions, which had been created in 1934, began making horror films in 1955. Hammer Horror continued to be made into the 1960s. One of my favourites is The Nanny, starring Bette Davis. The Nanny follows the story of a young boy who believes his nanny has killed his sister. It is unknown to the audience whether he or the nanny is evil. In the 1960s, many horror films were cheaply produced and made by underground studios. In some ways this worked well, as it allowed films to avoid scrutiny, and therefore they were able to experiment with more risque subject matter. The obsession with space and technology was beginning to lose its grip. 1960s horror was extremely influential and laid the foundations for what was to come. Some popular 1960s horror films are Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and George A. Romero's Night of the Living Dead. Thank you for watching episode 3 of the Horror History Film series. In the next episode, I'll be looking into the 1970s and beyond. Remember to subscribe. Bye!